Hello and welcome back to the Frugal Granny channel. My name's Ali and I'm Frugal Granny. I'm a 64 and 3/4 year old semi-retiree trying to make the most of what I've got between having left my office job this spring and getting the state pension in July 2027. Today it's Coffee and Catch Up 19 and we tend to have a quick roundup of the week with a slight sort of financial aspect to it, just to see how I'm getting on and how things are going. So if you're new here, you're very welcome and I do hope you stick around, and if you're a returning viewer, it's lovely to see you and thank you very much again for all your lovely comments over the last week. Well, what has happened in the last week? It has been quite busy. First of all, I just want to follow up on a few things that were left hanging last time or that have come up in the comments. One of you's asked for the tea brack recipe that I shared in the Monday magazine. I think it was either last time or the time before. And I'm going to just move over to the side now and I will include it as a picture in a picture or a split screen right here, so you can freeze the screen and copy it down or screenshot it if you want. I wrote that card down about 40 years ago and it is exactly as I received it from my mother. The 1 cup in the recipe is not an American cup or an English cup, it is literally just a teacup. So as long as you keep the proportions the same, you can use whatever sort of cup you like. But if you do use a bigger cup or even a mug, you may have to put in an extra egg or even a dash of milk. Right, and there's some really good news this week. Last week I mentioned that I'd spent £25 transferring Bella's microchip to me. Well, I've had an email now to say that that hasn't been contested by the previous owner and that I am now Bella's new owner. So it's all official. And I'll just put a little picture of Bella in there for you. She's doing really well. We've had a little bit of backsliding this week. She's been a little bit anxious and I've had a few anxiety attacks to calm down. But generally she's getting the hang of things, and as someone else has requested, I've started collecting clips of what the dogs are doing so that I can put together eventually a day in the life of Kitty and Bella for you. I guess the next thing to say is that those of you who follow me regularly will know that I work contracted 21 and 3/4 hours a week in a supermarket, and that is to bolster the income from my 3 annuities from previous jobs so that I've got enough to live on between having left my what I would call career ladder job and getting the state pension in July 2027. So last week it was supermarket payday, and on a Thursday I had access to my pay slip and I told you how I was going to budget that. Well, I have done exactly what I said apart from one thing, and I've held back £100 that I was going to pay towards my new glasses. No, these are not my new glasses. The new ones are varifocals and I can't wear them for screen work. So I've still got my signature supermarket specs on for videos. So let me just quickly go over how I budgeted my supermarket salary for those of you who don't want to flip back to last Thursday's video. I brought home £1,134 from my supermarket job over the last 4 weeks. They pay 4 weekly. And I put £800 into my buffer fund. Now, for those of you who are new and don't understand what I mean by my buffer fund, I'll link my buffer fund video in the top right-hand corner, and you might find that interesting viewing because that's basically the hub of how I run all of my finances, or how I'm trying to run all of my finances. Then I put £230 towards my new glasses. Now, the bill for those glasses, and admittedly there are 2 pairs, was £480, and I have queried the cost of that, and it is the lenses that have cost. I didn't have expensive frames at all, but 4 lenses, the sort that I had with They change colour when you go outside as well, and they've got protective bits on them. They were expensive, so I know it sounds very, very steep, and I'm still slightly in shock about the cost of glasses, but the 2 pairs, including my colleague discount, were £480, and I've now put £230 of last month's supermarket salary towards that. I've held back £100, which I was going to pay, because I just think I might need that this month, and I'll pay it nearer to the credit card cut-off deadline if I don't have to dig into it. And I think after that there was £4.63 left over, and I put that in my buffer fund. So I've done what I said I was going to do, apart from that £100, which I'm just holding on to in what I call my holding account. I've got one bank account where I just sort of stuff things to one side that I want to save for something else, but I'm not ready to allocate to a particular account yet. So that £100 has gone in there for now. Also, as I said last week, I'd been going through my main bank account where I spend money on my weekly consumables, etc., and I'd lost 55p. Well, I have actually, and I know some people have said in comments, life's too short to go looking for 55p, but the way my brain works, I cannot rest until I know where it's gone. Well, I went through it all again earlier this week when I'd got a spare minute. It was probably in the early hours of the morning, and I actually found the 55p. I think that I'd added 5p to a payment that I'd made to my credit card, because you can't pay the same amount twice in one day on that card for some reason. So in order to pay off the thing that needed paying, which I think actually was Bella's microchip transfer fee, I had to stick an extra 5p on it so that the online banking wouldn't recognise it as an amount that had already been paid that day. So that was the 5p. And the other 50p, I honestly can't remember what. Oh yeah, I know. It was when I paid for my car repair. It was £500 and 50p, and I'd forgotten about the 50p. So when I paid the £500 and 50p out of my main account to my credit card to pay off the garage invoice, and then I reimbursed myself £500 from my car sinking fund, I forgot about the 50p, so that's what it was. Mystery solved, and I'm very happy that I've found that, and my accounts are now balancing again. Right, other financial things that have happened this week. I've been through all of my sinking funds and savings accounts, and I've logged the interest for the month for each one of them. I do that for all of them. I have a separate tab on my spreadsheet for interest. I've got the accounts listed down one side, the months of the year across the top, and I log the interest for each account every month and then total it up at the bottom. And then I also have a total at the bottom right. And that enables me to sort of keep track of what's happening with my interest over the course of the year. And if I'm likely to breach the tax-free limit, then it means I've got a chance to rearrange things. Well, I think the tax-free limit on interest at the moment is £1,000, and I'm very unlikely to go over that. But in previous years, I don't remember when it changed now, it was 500. And if you do have savings and the interest rate is high, I think a couple of years ago, it would have been very easy for your ordinary saver to have breached that £500 limit. So I do like to keep track of my interest, and it's as much for my own interest. I like to see what my money is earning me. The other thing that has raised a few comments is my struggles with trying to predict the tax on my supermarket income, having earned what I would call my office salary for the first 3 months of this tax year, and having paid a considerable amount of tax as a result of that, or on that salary. And I'd I'd sat down and worked out that HMRC owe me about £1,600, and I'd come to the conclusion that the reduction in the tax on my supermarket salary over the last 2 months was a result of the P45 on my office job having been actioned, and if that reduction continued the way it had, then HMRC would be paying me back the £1,600 that they owe me by the end of the tax year. Now, someone in the comments, and I cannot find this comment, I've been through all of my comments and I just cannot find it. Someone had said that they enjoyed a pay slip challenge, and they'd sat down and worked out that in actual fact HMRC were taxing me as if my supermarket salary was my main job for the whole year, and that they were just taxing me on the 12570L normal personal allowance tax code, which means if that's the case, then HMRC still owe me £1,600, and I'm probably not going to see that now until next April. And I mean, you're going to laugh. I mean, you know, I work in a supermarket. I talk to people, and this really interesting lady came through my till earlier this week, and we got chatting. Turned out that she was a former head teacher who now works in a lesser capacity, I think, or as a consultant. We got talking about retirement and scaling back, and then I mentioned about this tax conundrum I was having, and she said, that sounds about right, because she'd got a colleague who'd done something similar to me, and HMRC didn't pay her back through the year or even as a lump sum at that point, but she had to wait for the whole tax year to run through, and then she'd got a rebate of £4,000. So I'm now beginning to wonder whether this is what's happening with me, that I'm being taxed on, the standard personal allowance on my supermarket pay, and that I may get this rebate of about £1,600 at the end of the tax year. And I really don't know. So if you were the viewer who left that comment, could you please leave me another comment? Because I cannot find the comment that you left, and I'd like to go through the maths again and satisfy myself as to what's happening. I did say I was going to talk to my accountant about it, but until I've been through it myself and feel a little bit more confident about what's going on and what I need to ask, I really don't want to bother them. So, yeah, the tax thing is still rumbling on. And I think that sort of leads us back again to the whole YouTube issue. I've been tracking my YouTube income over the last week and projecting what it might be for September, and it's down again. The projected income for September is now below the amount that I need to have the amount that I would like to put in my monthly buffer fund after tax. So it's now below that, which makes me very glad that I have taken on 2 extra shifts a week at the supermarket. I did, I think I've done 2 extra shifts this week. I've got 2 extra shifts next week, and I think 2 the week after, and then I've got a week off. So I'm hoping that these extra shifts will close the gap between what I thought I might have got from YouTube, but I'm not going to get, and what I need. So last week I did an extra shift on Friday and an extra shift on Sunday. This week I'm going to be doing Thursday and Sunday, and next week I'm doing Thursday and Sunday, and then I've got a week off. So that should be 6 extra shifts in that pay period, and I'm hoping that will resolve the problem, and then we'll see what happens with YouTube as we go into the autumn. And that leads me to the comments that some of you've made about this new thing on YouTube called hyping. I know that Ali Lives Well on Less has talked about it a couple of times, and both she and I hopefully Sharon, probably over at Living on a Low Income UK, I think we've all had this email now from YouTube explaining about hyping, but to be honest with you, I'm not really much clearer about it than the information that I'd gleaned from various other creators and putting one and one together myself. But one thing I have noticed is that last Saturday's video that I put out about work ethics was not available to be hyped. And I think just because your channel is eligible for hyping does not mean that every video is going to be eligible to be hyped. Because I looked at my coffee and catch up last week and that was eligible to be hyped. Saturday's wasn't, but Monday's magazine was, and I'm hoping this one will be as well. And thank you so much to all of you that have been hyping my videos. I have had a look. I mean, I'm way off getting onto the top 100 leaderboard for the UK. Not that it really bothers me, but I'm, you know, any support from my followers is greatly received. So if you want to hype my videos, please do. If you want to give me a like, I'd love it. If you haven't subscribed and you're a regular viewer, please subscribe. And yes, please keep on commenting. And I'm doing my best with these extra shifts taken into consideration to answer all your comments, because as far as I understand, you know, apart from the fact I really, really like getting to know you all and building relationship. And I do feel that, you know, the community that's beginning to grow on this channel is turning into a wonderful thing. It's fantastic. And, you know, we do miss those that disappear for a while and then come back. So hello, Sital, it's nice to see you again. And Sue, it's good to know your real name after having initials and numbers for a long time. So that's fantastic. Thank you. I don't even know what I was saying there about this. Oh yeah, engagement. Yeah, community engagement apparently is really important to YouTube because it proves that you're a human being and not a robot. Well, I'm definitely not a robot, though I sometimes feel a little bit like one when I'm tired and I'm sat on a checkout and I just go into robot mode. But yeah, there's a real person behind these crazy glasses. I think, you know, that sort of is mainly it for the week. I mean, I have been trying to squash a few jobs in there between supermarket shifts and filming. I've started my winter tidy up for my garden. I tend to do it in quadrants because the garden's divided into 4, and I've done the front left quadrant now. I'll try and stick it in there as a video within a video. I've also, after 3 months of it all sat on my ironing board, finished the ironing. And I've even shampooed the landing carpet, which I didn't video. So I think that leads us to spending this week. That's been a bit interesting and unexpected. My regular viewers know I'm living on a very restricted budget for consumables at the moment. I've allocated myself £45 a week, which I know is not livable. And I've actually thought that what I'd quite like to do at some point is write myself a one-person meal plan for a week, multiply that by 4 and put together a shopping list and see what it actually would cost me. But that aside, the reason I'm trying to live off £45 is because I'm trying to build up my buffer fund, I'm trying to build up my sinking funds, and I have 3 freezers which are full of stuff. I've done a freezer tour for the medium-sized freezer, and I'm planning to do a freezer tour for one of the other freezers on Saturday, because I'm hoping that that will hold me responsible for doing that, so that, you know, the video gets made and the freezer gets cleaned out and defrosted, because it really needs doing. But oh golly, I really am off down rabbit holes today, aren't I? So back to week 3 spending. I got to the end of week 2 with £90.57 left in my bank account, which is effectively £45 a week for the next 2 weeks or the rest of September. And there have been some quite big purchases this week due to offers at the supermarket and one of my sons visiting for the weekend. And so I've actually spent a little bit more than my £45 this week, and it has effectively left me with £1 a day for the rest of the month. So I'm going to be doing a £1 a day challenge between now and the end of September. Okay, that includes the stuff in my fridges, my pantry and my freezer, but please no emergencies in the next fortnight. Anyway, so what did I spend? Okay, I gave in and I bought a Diet Coke when I was on a shift and 2 packets of crisps and a Bounty bar. One of the packets of crisps was for the colleague I was working with that evening, and a sparkling water on another evening. And then I bought myself an ice cream in the park, a small one. It was £2.50 and it was glacé mango and it was absolutely delicious, and that was to celebrate the end of the summer. And then I bought a meal deal when I was on a shift, and I bought enough jumbones, those are dog chews, mini jumbones, for Bella and Kitty to have one every day for the rest of the month. That cost me £12.71, and I saved £2.24 on that because they're on 3 for £3 or something at the moment. Then one of my sons came to visit for the weekend, and I bought a whole chicken and some ready-made Yorkshire puddings and various other bits and pieces, and that cost me £9.86. Then in the end of season sale, I bought a sleeping bag for £17, and that was a gift for somebody. Then I also had to buy a new phone cable for my phone because for some reason the connector had broken, and that cost me £11.48, including staff discount. Then I bought some chicken for the dogs. I bought some chicken wings, which I boiled up and stripped for them. That was £2.64. And then there were some more bits and pieces due to having 2 sons here for the weekend, which was another £16.34. Don't worry, I've been living on the leftovers all week, so it's okay. I think I must have bought another drink when I was at the supermarket. It was £1.09. And then I bought 10 red peppers because they're on loyalty card offer at the moment. They're down to 45p each, which is pre-cost of living prices. And you'll see what I did with those in Magazine Monday next week. That was £4.05, including my discount. And then I bought a small tub of cut coconut because I really like coconut. And then another Diet Coke. So yeah, drinks and meals on the job have been a bit of a downfall this week, but I'm not going to be able to do that going forward because I literally am now left with 12. Oh no, what am I left with? I'm left with £12.50 because last night I had a customer come through self-serve who was trying to put his last £1 coin through the cash payment till, and it kept going through, and he said, "Had anyone got £1? Nobody got £1. I had a look at it. It honestly looked like somebody had chewed it." So in the end I said, "Give me the £1," and I took the £1 and I tapped my card to pay what it was he needed to pay to get his stuff. And I said, "Can I keep the £1?" And he said, "Yeah," even though it meant that, I couldn't give him any change, so I think it was 75p or 80p, and he said, "You keep the change." So he was very, very grateful, and I kept the change, which was this crummy £1. And then I thought, what am I going to do with this crummy £1? No one's going to take it. So I put it in the charity box on the second-hand bookshelf and got myself a book by Ken Follett called Evening and Morning. It's about the I think it's at the end or the beginning of the Middle Ages in Britain. I've not seen that one before. It's a long read, and I enjoyed his book Pillars of the Earth, so I thought, right, I'm having that one. And the wonky £1 went into the charity box. I hope they don't mind, but I'm sure they just take it all to a bank anyway and it all gets sorted out. So that's left me with about £12. It's the date today is the 18th of September, so I'm literally on £1 a day now until the end of the month. So that's a little bit of a challenge, and I'm going to see if I can stick to it. It's going to mean not buying food on shift. I'm just going to have to either eat toast in the common room or keep my fingers crossed that there's something on colleagues' shop when I go on my break, or bring something with me. So, yeah, interesting times, but it's okay. I mean, I'm not saying all this because I want anyone to feel sorry for me. It just makes my life interesting. It gives me something to do, because I will admit, you know, I'm not saying I'm beginning to get bored being semi-retired, because I am working really hard. There are jobs in the house, but it is nice to have, you know, little challenges every now and then just to keep you motivated and keep your brain active. And can I keep myself to £1 a day for the next fortnight will be one of them. I mean, technically speaking, unless something breaks, or I have to fill up with petrol unexpectedly for an unexpected reason, I should be fine. So let's just see if I can do this. So, oh yeah, the other thing that happened this week is I went to the dentist, but that didn't cost anything because I pay a monthly subscription and no extra work was done, and I don't need to go back again until March, so that's all booked in the diary. So that's a big sigh of relief too. So I can't see anything else coming up for now. The next things on the horizon are the arrival of my annuities for September. The first one should arrive next week. So I have one on the 21st, one on the 28th or nearest working day, and then one on the 1st of October. And then hopefully also next week I will get the YouTube income for August, which is slightly less than I thought it was going to be because they do sort of adjust it. It's gone down about £1, but I can live with that. So we'll see what happens, but I do feel generally that things are beginning to bite a little bit, and I really do need to pull my horns in and be a little bit more focused. I do think I've allowed myself to relax a little bit too much over the last fortnight, and I am now having to deal with payback time, and that's fine. Life's all about consequences, and I'm old enough to know that, and that's absolutely fine. But as I said, I have kept back £100 from the money that I was going to pay to my glasses, and if I can get through next week without any major emergencies, then I will also put that towards the glasses as well, and the balance of the money I have to pay on the glasses will come from the YouTube income. So that's about it from me for this week. It's a bit mundane, I'm afraid, but then life is a bit mundane sometimes, but I feel I'm on top of things. I've got my record straight, and as long as I don't allow myself to slip up or let my self-discipline drop, then I should be okay for the next fortnight. Right, so I'm going to see you on Saturday, and I'm really hoping that I'm going to be defrosting one of my freezers and giving you freezer tour number 2. I don't know whether it's going to be the small freezer or the big freezer yet, possibly the small freezer, but I'm only saying this because I need to hold myself to it because I've got to get it done. Anyway, it's been lovely to see you again, and I'll see you on Saturday. And as I said, the viewer who was the viewer who did those calculations on my payslip. If you could re-comment, I'd be very grateful, because I cannot find your comment anywhere. Possibly you've deleted it, I don't know. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on Saturday, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And now it's time for your Kitty and Bella fix. Thank you. Bye-bye.